Lieutenant Lisa Parker sat in the cold metal chair outside Commander Jake Morrison's office. Her hands were cuffed behind her back. Two security guards stood nearby, watching her every move. Her right eye was swollen shut from the fight that brought her here. Blood had dried on her split lip. The door to Morrison's office opened. A tall man with gray hair and tired eyes looked at her. He wore the dark blue uniform of a ship commander. 3 gold bars on his collar showed his rank. "Bring her in," Morrison said to the guards. They lifted Parker from the chair and pushed her into the office. The room was small and plain. A metal desk sat in the center. Behind it hung pictures of old Earth cities and green forests. Parker had not seen real trees in 3 years. Morrison sat behind his desk. He opened a thick file and began reading. Parker stood between the 2 guards, saying nothing. Her jaw hurt from where Captain Brooks had hit her back. "Lieutenant Lisa Parker," Morrison said without looking up. "Age 28, born in New Texas Colony. Graduated flight school with top marks. Been transferred between ships 7 times. In 4 years," he turned a page and kept reading. "Punched a superior officer on the UES Explorer. Threw a chair at a training instructor on the UES Victory. Started a fight in the mess hall of the USA Guardian. And yesterday you attacked Captain Brooks during a mission briefing." Morrison finally looked at her. His blue eyes were calm but sharp. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Parker stared at him. Her good eye burned with anger. "Brooks is an idiot," she said. "He wanted us to fly straight into their guns. His plan would have killed half my squadron." "So you decided to punch him?" "Someone had to stop him." Morrison closed the file. He leaned back in his chair and studied her face. "Tell me about the war, Lieutenant. What do you think of our enemies?" Parker was surprised by the question. She had expected to be yelled at or sent to prison. "The Zephyrians? They think we're weak. They say humans are too emotional to be real warriors. They call us children who throw tantrums. And are they right?" "No!" Parker shouted. The guards stepped closer, but Morrison waved them back. "Then why do you keep proving them right?" Morrison asked. Parker's face turned red. "I don't prove anything to those alien freaks. I fight better than any of them. I've shot down 12 of their ships. Yes, you're a good pilot, maybe the best on this ship. But every time you lose control, every time you hit someone or break something, you give them more proof that humans can't handle pressure." Morrison stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars moved slowly past the ship. 3 colonies have fallen in the past month," he said. "Admiral Kethver leads their fleet now. He believes humans are animals who fight without honor. Every report of your behavior reaches their intelligence network. They study us, Parker. They want to understand our weaknesses." Parker felt confused. She had expected to be punished, not lectured about alien politics. "I don't care what they think," she said. "You should. Because in 2 weeks we meet their main fleet at Proxima Station. If we lose that battle, they push deeper into human space. More colonies die, more families become refugees." Morrison turned back to face her. "I'm offering you a choice, Lieutenant. You can face a court-martial for attacking Captain Brooks. You'll spend 5 years in military prison. Or you can accept my alternative." "What alternative?" "A training program. Something designed specifically for you." Parker laughed, but there was no humor in it. "More training? I've been through every program the fleet offers. Anger management, stress control, leadership classes, none of it works. This is different. I developed it myself with help from our ship psychologist, Dr. Henderson. It's not about controlling your anger. It's about using it. Using it how?" Morrison walked back to his desk. He picked up a small device and pressed a button. The lights dimmed and a holographic display appeared in the air above them. The display showed battle footage from recent fights with Zephyrian ships. Their vessels moved in perfect formation. Their attacks were precise and calculated. When human ships tried to fight them, the footage showed chaos and confusion on the human side. "Watch their movements," Morrison said. "See how they coordinate every action. They fight like a machine. No wasted effort. No emotional responses. The display changed to show Zephyrian ground troops. They wore black armor and carried energy. Weapons. Even when humans shot at them, they never broke formation or showed fear. They respect strength, but only when it comes with discipline. To them, our emotions make us unpredictable and weak. They don't understand that human feelings can be a source of power. Parker watched the footage. She had fought these enemies many times, but she had never really studied them like this. "What does this have to do with me?" she asked. Morrison turned off the display. The room returned to normal lighting. "I think you have the potential to show them something they've never seen before. A human who fights with both passion and honor. Someone who can channel anger into strength instead of chaos. And if I refuse, then you go to prison." "Captain, Brooks wants you locked up for the maximum sentence. He's tired of dealing with problem pilots." Parker thought about 5 years in a military prison cell. She thought about missing the war, sitting in a cage while other people fought and died. The idea made her stomach turn. "How long is this training program?" "As long as it takes." "Could be weeks, could be months. And then what?" Morrison smiled. For the first time since she entered the room. "Then we find out if you're really as good as you think you are?" Parker stared at him. She could sense there was more to this offer than he was telling her. But prison was worse than any training. "Program, fine," she said. "I'll do your program. Are you sure?" "Once you start, there's no backing out. It won't be like anything you've experienced before." "I said I'll do it." Morrison nodded to the guards. They unlocked Parker's handcuffs. She rubbed her wrists where the metal had cut into her skin. "One more thing, Lieutenant," Morrison said as she turned to leave. "During our conversation, you said you hated Captain Brooks. You said you hated the system that protects incompetent officers. You said you hated the way things work in this fleet." Parker stopped walking. "So? Hatred can be useful. It shows you care about something enough to fight for it. Most people think hatred is always destructive, but they're wrong. Hatred of injustice can drive someone to create justice. Hatred of weakness can make someone strong." He paused and looked directly into her eyes. "The question is whether you can learn to hate the right things and love the right things. Whether you can turn your anger into something that builds instead of destroys." Parker felt something strange in her chest. For the first time in months, someone was talking to her like she might be worth saving. "When do we start?" she asked. "Tomorrow morning. Report to Holodeck 3 at 0600 hours. "And Parker?" "Yes, sir?" "Don't eat a big breakfast. You're going to need an empty stomach for what comes next." Parker left the office feeling more confused than ever. She had expected punishment, but Morrison had offered her something else entirely. She didn't understand what he wanted from her, but she knew it was better than prison. As she walked back to her quarters, she passed other crew members in the hallway. Some of them stared at her bruised face. Others whispered to each other about the crazy pilot who kept causing trouble. Parker ignored them all. Tomorrow she would start Morrison's mysterious training program. She had no idea what it would involve, but she was ready to find out. For the first time in years, she felt like someone might actually understand her anger instead of just trying to make it disappear. Parker arrived at Holodeck 3 at exactly 6 in the morning. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, she found Morrison waiting for her. He wore simple gray training clothes instead of his uniform. Next to him stood Dr. Carl Henderson, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Good morning, Lieutenant," Morrison said. "Did you follow my advice about breakfast?" "I didn't eat anything," Parker replied. Her stomach felt empty and nervous. "Smart choice. Dr. Henderson, would you explain what we're doing here?" The doctor stepped forward. He carried a small tablet computer in his hands. "Lisa, may I call you Lisa? This training program is different from anything you've done before. We're not trying to make your anger disappear. Instead, we want to understand where it comes from and how to use it properly." Parker crossed her arms. "How exactly do you plan to do that?" Morrison walked to a control panel on the wall. "Have you ever used a military holodeck before?" "Of course. We train in them all the time. This one is special. It connects directly to your nervous system. Everything you experience will feel completely real. pain, fear, joy, anger, your brain won't be able to tell the difference between simulation and reality? Parker felt a chill run down her spine. Is that safe? Dr. Henderson nodded. Perfectly safe, but it will be intense. The situations we put you in are designed to push you to your emotional limits. Morrison pressed several buttons on the control panel. The room around them began to fade away. In its place, a new environment appeared. Parker found herself standing in the cockpit of a fighter ship. Through the front window, she could see space filled with enemy vessels. Your first scenario, Morrison's voice said from speakers hidden in the walls. You're leading a squadron of 12 pilots. Your mission is to protect a transport ship carrying 500 civilians. The enemy has twice as many fighters as you do. Parker looked around the cockpit. Everything felt real. The seat was hard beneath her. The controls were exactly where they should be. Her hands shook slightly as she gripped the flight stick. This is just a simulation, she told herself. Your brain doesn't know that, Dr. Henderson's voice replied. React as if everything is real. Make the choices you would make in an actual battle. Parker activated her radio. All fighters, this is Lightning One. Form up on me. We have incoming enemies at 2 o'clock. The battle began immediately. Enemy ships dove toward the transport vessel. Parker's squadron moved to intercept them. Laser fire filled the space around her ship. Within minutes, everything went wrong. 2 of her pilots were shot down. The enemy ships were faster and better armed than expected. Parker watched her squadron fall apart as panic spread through the radio channels. Lightning 7 is hit. I'm losing power. There are too many of them. We need to retreat. Lightning 1, what are your orders? Parker felt her familiar anger rising. These simulated pilots were cowards. They were giving up too easily. She wanted to scream at them to fight harder. Instead, she made a decision that surprised even her. She turned her ship toward the largest group of enemy fighters. All ships, follow me. We're going to punch through their center formation. That's suicide, Lightning 1. Just do it. Parker pushed her ship to maximum speed. She fired at everything in front of her. Her squadron followed, but they were too scared to fight effectively. Within seconds, her ship exploded in a ball of fire. The simulation ended. Parker found herself back in the holodeck. Morrison and Dr. Henderson were watching her closely. How do you feel? The doctor asked. Angry, Parker said without hesitation. My pilots were cowards. If they had followed my orders properly, we could have won. You led them into a suicide attack, Morrison pointed out. Even if they had obeyed perfectly, most of them would have died. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary. Is it? Let's try again. The simulation reset. Once again, Parker found herself in the cockpit facing the same situation. This time she tried a different approach. Instead of charging directly at the enemy, she ordered her squadron to use hit-and-run tactics. The result was the same. Her pilots were too frightened to execute complex maneuvers. They made mistakes and died quickly. The transport ship was destroyed along with all 500 civilians. Parker tried the scenario 7 more times. Each time she failed. Each time she became more frustrated and angry. This is pointless, she said after her 9th failure. My pilots are idiots. The enemy ships are too powerful. The scenario is designed to be impossible. Morrison stepped closer to her. The scenario is based on a real battle that happened 3 months ago. Lieutenant Commander Kate Williams was the squadron leader. She saved the transport ship and 420 of her pilots survived. Parker stared at him. How? By understanding her people. By knowing what they could and couldn't do. By adapting her strategy to their abilities instead of demanding they adapt to hers. That's not how I fight, I know. That's the problem. Dr. Henderson made notes on his tablet. Lisa, tell me about your childhood. Did you have brothers or sisters? The question surprised Parker. Why does that matter? Just answer, please. I was an only child. My parents worked on mining platforms. They were gone most of the time. So you learned to rely on yourself. I had to. Nobody else was going to take care of me. And when you joined the military, Parker thought about her early training days. I was better than everyone else, faster, smarter, more determined. But the instructors always wanted us to work as a team. Which frustrated you? Yes, teams are slow. Teams make compromises. When you're in a fighter ship, you need to make decisions quickly. Morrison activated the simulation again. Let's try a different scenario. This time, Parker found herself on the ground. She wore combat armor and carried a rifle. Around her, a city burned. Buildings had collapsed. Dead bodies lay in the streets. You're part of a rescue team? Morrison's voice explained. There are civilians trapped in a hospital. Your job is to get them out safely. Parker began moving toward the hospital. She could hear enemy soldiers nearby. Their voices echoed between the ruined buildings. As she got closer to the hospital, she saw the problem. Enemy troops had surrounded the building. They were using heavy weapons to destroy it floor by floor. Soon, everyone inside would be dead. Parker had two choices. She could call for backup and wait for more soldiers to arrive. That would take 30 minutes, and the civilians might not survive that long. Or she could attack immediately with just her small team. She chose to attack. The battle was fierce but short. Parker's team killed the enemy soldiers, but 3 of her own people died in the process. When she finally reached the hospital, she found that most of the civilians were already dead. The simulation ended. How many people did you save? Dr. Henderson asked. 47, Parker replied. How many died? About 200. And how many of your team members died? 3. Morrison reset the simulation. Try again. This time, wait for backup. Parker wanted to argue, but she followed his instructions. She hid her team and waited for reinforcements to arrive. When they finally attacked, they overwhelmed the enemy easily. Almost all the civilians survived. But it took longer, Parker protested. In a real battle, 30 minutes could mean the difference between success and failure. In this case, patience saved lives. And in other cases, speed might save more lives, Morrison smiled. Exactly. The key is knowing which situation you're in. They ran more scenarios. Each one tested a different aspect of Parker's decision-making. In some, her aggressive approach worked perfectly. In others, it led to disaster. Slowly, Parker began to understand what Morrison was trying to teach her. Her anger and determination were not problems to be fixed. They were tools to be used at the right time and in the right way. Fighting isn't just about being stronger or faster than your enemy, Dr. Henderson explained during a break. It's about understanding the whole situation. Your emotions, your team's emotions, your enemy's emotions, everything matters. The Zephyrians think human emotions make us weak, Morrison added. They're wrong. Our emotions give us information that pure logic cannot provide. Fear tells us about danger. Anger tells us about injustice. Love tells us what's protecting. But emotions can also make us stupid, Parker said. Yes, that's why we need to learn to listen to them without being controlled by them. They continued training for hours. Each scenario pushed Parker in a different way. Some made her furious. Others made her sad or afraid. A few even made her laugh. By the end of the day, Parker was exhausted. Her body ached as if she had really been fighting battles all day. Her mind felt stretched and confused. How did I do? She asked as they prepared to leave. Morrison looked at his notes. Better than I expected. You're learning to think before you act. That's the first step. What's the next step? Tomorrow we work on understanding other people. Your enemies, your allies, and yourself. Parker walked back to her quarters feeling different than she had in months. For the first time, someone was trying to understand her anger instead of just making it go away. It was strange and uncomfortable, but also somehow hopeful. Maybe Morrison was right. Maybe her emotions could be a source of strength instead of weakness. Maybe she could learn to fight with honor instead of just rage. She fell asleep that night wondering what tomorrow's training would bring. Parker had been training for 2 weeks when Morrison called her to his office again. This time, she was not in handcuffs. She walked through the ship's corridors with her head held high. Other crew members still stared at her, but now she ignored them completely. Morrison was not alone when she entered. Dr. Henderson sat in a chair beside the desk. Captain Nina Rodriguez, the ship's commander, stood by the window. Parker had never spoken to Rodriguez before, but she knew the captain by reputation. Rodriguez was tough and fair, respected by everyone on the ship. "Sit down, Lieutenant," Morrison said. Parker took the empty chair across from Morrison's desk. She felt nervous but tried not to show it. "How do you feel about your training so far?" Rodriguez asked. "It's been challenging, ma'am, but I think I'm learning. Dr. Henderson tells me you've made remarkable progress. You're starting to think before you act. You're considering the consequences of your decisions," Parker nodded. "The simulations have taught me that anger without purpose is just destruction. But anger with a clear goal can be a powerful tool." Morrison leaned forward. "That's exactly right. And now it's time to tell you why we've been putting you through this program." He activated his desk display. A star map appeared in the air above. The red dots marked Zephyrian positions. Blue dots showed human fleets. 3 days ago, we received a message from Admiral Kethver himself. The leader of the Zephyrian coalition has made an unusual offer. The display zoomed in on a space station between the two fleets. He wants to settle this war through single combat. 1 human warrior against 1 Zephyrian warrior. The winner determines the terms of any future relationship between our species. Parker felt her heart racing. Single combat? Why would they agree to that? Because they believe humans are weak, Rodriguez said. Kethver thinks any human warrior will be easy to defeat. He sees this as a way to prove Zephyrian superiority without losing more ships. Dr. Henderson opened his tablet. Their culture values personal honor above everything else. To them, a victory in single combat means more than winning 100 battles with superior numbers. Morrison turned off the display and looked directly at Parker. "We want you to be our champion." The words hit Parker like a physical blow. She stared at Morrison, unable to speak. "Me? But I'm just a pilot. I'm not a ground combat specialist. I've never fought hand-to-hand against aliens." "You're more than just a pilot," Morrison said. "You're someone who understands what it means to fight for something you believe in. And after these 2 weeks of training, you're someone who can channel that fighting spirit into disciplined action." "The combat won't be hand-to-hand," Rodriguez added. "Both fighters will wear advanced combat suits. The battle will test strategy, skill, and character as much as physical strength." Parker felt overwhelmed. "What if I lose? What happens to humanity? If you lose, the Zephyrians will demand harsh terms. They'll want us to surrender several colonies. They'll treat us as a defeated species. And if I win? If you win, they'll respect us as equals. We can negotiate a real peace treaty instead of just a surrender." Parker stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see other human ships in the distance. Each one carried thousands of people who trusted their leaders to keep them safe. "Why me?" she asked. "There are better fighters on this ship. Captain Brooks has more combat experience." Morrison laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Captain Brooks would lose in the first 5 minutes. He fights by the book. He follows standard procedures. The Zephyrians would predict his every move." "You fight differently," Dr. Henderson said. "You're unpredictable. But more importantly, you fight with passion. The Zephyrians respect strength, but they don't understand human emotion. They think our feelings make us weak." "You can show them they're wrong," Rodriguez said. "You can prove that human emotion, properly channeled, makes us stronger than any other species." Parker turned back to face them. "When is this combat supposed to happen?" "In 1 week," Morrison replied. "We'll meet their fleet at Neutral Station 7. Representatives from a dozen species will witness the battle." 1 week? That's not enough time to prepare. You've been preparing for 2 weeks already. The holographic training was designed to get you ready for exactly this kind of challenge. Dr. Henderson stood up. "Lisa, I want you to understand something. This isn't just about winning or losing. It's about showing the galaxy who humans really are." The Zephyrians see us as wild animals who fight without honor, Morrison added. They think our emotions make us unpredictable and dangerous. In their minds, we're barely civilized. But you can prove them wrong. You can show them that human passion, combined with human honor, creates a warrior unlike anything they've ever faced. Parker sat back down. Her mind was spinning with questions and fears. What exactly will this combat involve? Rodriguez activated her own tablet. Images appeared showing a large arena filled with obstacles and challenges. The combat system is called the Crucible. Both fighters wear powered armor that enhances their strength and speed. The arena presents various scenarios that test not just fighting ability, but moral character. Moral character? You might face a situation where you can win by letting innocent people die, or you might have to choose between following the rules and doing what's right. Points are awarded for honorable behavior as well as combat success, Morrison nodded. It's not enough to defeat your opponent. You have to do it in a way that demonstrates true warrior honor. And Kethver himself will be my opponent? Yes. He's their greatest warrior. He's never lost a single combat. He volunteered personally because he wants to prove that even the best human is no match for a Zephyrian. Parker felt her familiar anger starting to rise. The idea that some alien thought he was better than any human made her blood boil, but then she remembered her training. She took a deep breath and thought about what Morrison had taught her. My anger is information, she said quietly. What? Rodriguez asked. Something Dr. Henderson taught me. My anger is telling me that this Kethver is underestimating humanity. He thinks we're weak because we feel emotions strongly. But he's wrong. She stood up again, but this time she felt calm and determined instead of panicked. Our emotions don't make us weak. They make us fight harder for the things we care about. They make us willing to sacrifice for others. They give us strength that pure logic cannot provide. Morrison smiled. Exactly. And that's why you're the right person for this job. But I'm still scared, Parker admitted. What if I'm not ready? What if I let everyone down? Dr. Henderson walked over to her. Fear is also information, Lisa. It's telling you that this challenge is important. It's telling you to prepare carefully and fight smart. You won't be alone, Morrison said. We'll spend the next week fine-tuning your training. We'll study everything we know about Zephyrian combat tactics. We'll make sure you're as ready as possible. Rodriguez placed a hand on Parker's shoulder. Lieutenant, I won't lie to you. This is dangerous. You could be seriously injured or killed. But you're also our best hope for ending this war without millions of deaths. Parker looked at each of them in turn. Morrison, who had seen potential in her when everyone else saw only problems. Dr. Henderson, who had helped her understand her own emotions. Rodriguez, who was trusting her with the fate of humanity. I'll do it, she said. I'll fight their champion. Are you sure? Morrison asked. Double quantities, but I have one condition. What's that? If I survive this, I want to help train other pilots the way you trained me. I want to teach them that their emotions can be a source of strength. Morrison extended his hand. Deal. Parker shook his hand firmly. For the first time in her life, she felt like she understood her purpose. She was not just a fighter pilot. She was someone who could show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The next week would determine whether that was enough. Neutral Station 7 hung in space like a giant metal wheel. Ships from dozens of different species surrounded it. Human vessels floated next to Zephyrian warships. Neither side fired their weapons. This was neutral ground, protected by ancient laws of honor. Parker stood in the docking bay of the UES Defiance, wearing her new combat armor. The suit was black metal with blue lights running along the arms and legs. It felt heavy but powerful. When she moved, the armor moved with her like a second skin. Morrison checked her equipment one final time. Remember everything we practiced? The armor will enhance your strength and speed, but it won't think for you. I remember, Parker said. Her voice sounded strange through the helmet speakers. Dr. Henderson stood nearby with his tablet. How are you feeling? Nervous, excited, angry? Parker paused. But it's good anger, focused anger. That's exactly right. Use those emotions. Don't let them use you. Captain Rodriguez approached with a group of senior officers. Lieutenant, representatives from 12 species are watching this combat. Whatever happens today will be remembered for generations. Parker nodded. She understood the weight of what she was about to do. This was not just a fight between two warriors. It was a test of what humanity could become. The shuttle ride to Neutral Station 7 took 20 minutes. Parker sat quietly, focusing on her breathing like Dr. Henderson had taught her. Through the small window, she could see Zephyrian ships. They were sleek and dark, built for speed and precision. When the shuttle docked, Parker was met by station security. They escorted her through long corridors filled with aliens she had never seen before. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange she could not tell which end was their head. All of them watched her with intense curiosity. She was the human who would fight their greatest warrior. The arena was enormous. It looked like a small city built inside the station. Buildings, streets, and open spaces filled the circular floor. Above, thousands of spectators sat in rows of seats that reached up to the ceiling. In the center of the arena stood a tall figure in silver armor. Admiral Kethfer was larger than Parker had expected. Even with the armor, she could see he was built like a predator. His movements were fluid and precise. A referee stepped between them. The alien wore the gold robes of a neutral. Judge. Warriors, you understand the rules of the Crucible. You will face 7 scenarios. Each scenario tests both combat ability and moral character. Victory comes not just from defeating your opponent, but from demonstrating honor in your choices. Parker and Kethver bowed to each other. Through his helmet speakers, the Zephyrian's voice was deep and cold. Human, I respect your courage in facing me. But courage without discipline is meaningless. Today you will learn the difference between a warrior and an animal. Parker felt anger flash through her, but she controlled it. Today we'll both learn something new. The first scenario began immediately. The arena around them changed, becoming a burning city. Explosions echoed in the distance. Through her armor sensors, Parker could see civilians trapped in a collapsing building. Both warriors had the same choice: save the civilians or attack each other while the other was distracted. Kethver moved toward the building without hesitation. Parker was surprised. She had expected him to be ruthless and selfish. Instead, he began pulling people from the wreckage. Parker joined him. Together, they worked to free the trapped civilians. Only when everyone was safe did they turn to face each other. Interesting, Kethver said. You chose honor over tactical advantage. Did you expect me to let innocent people die? Many humans would. Your species is known for putting self-interest above duty. They fought then, in the middle of the burning city. Kethver was faster than Parker had expected. His armor moved like liquid metal. His weapons were precise and deadly, but Parker had advantages too. Her emotions gave her information that pure logic could not provide. She could sense when he was about to attack. She could feel his patterns and rhythms. The first scenario ended with neither warrior gaining a clear advantage. Both had shown honor, and both had demonstrated skill. The second scenario took place on a battlefield. Dead soldiers lay everywhere. In the distance, enemy troops were retreating. Both warriors could pursue and destroy them, or they could tend to wounded soldiers who were dying nearby. Again, both chose to help the wounded. But this time, Parker made a different choice than Kethver. The Zephyrian worked efficiently, treating the most seriously wounded first. It was logical and practical. Parker, however, spent extra time comforting a young soldier who was dying. She held his hand and spoke gently to him as he passed away. Kethver watched this with confusion. You wasted valuable time on someone who could not be saved. He was scared. No one should die alone and afraid. Emotion makes you inefficient. Compassion makes me human. They fought again. This time, Parker's emotional awareness gave her a clearer advantage. She could sense Kethver's growing frustration. He was used to fighting opponents who thought like machines. Her unpredictable responses confused him. The scenarios continued. In the third, they had to choose between following orders and protecting civilians. In the fourth, they faced a situation where they could win by cheating. In the fifth, they had to decide whether to show mercy to a defeated enemy. Each time, Parker's choices surprised Kethver. She did not always make the most logical decision. Instead, she made choices based on what felt right, what honored the best parts of human nature. By the sixth scenario, Kethver was clearly frustrated. His precise attacks had become wilder. His perfect control was slipping. "You fight without discipline," he said as they circled each other in a destroyed spaceport. "Your emotions make you unpredictable and dangerous. My emotions make me fight." "For something bigger than myself," Parker replied. "What do you fight for?" "Honor, duty, the glory of my people." "Those are ideas. I fight for people. Real people with real feelings and real dreams." The seventh and final scenario was the most challenging. Both warriors found themselves in a command center during a space battle. They could win the scenario by sacrificing a ship full of civilians to destroy an enemy fleet. Or they could find another way, even if it meant personal defeat. Parker did not hesitate. She refused to sacrifice innocent lives. Instead, she chose a plan that put her own armor at risk. She overloaded her power systems to create a diversion that saved both the civilians and the fleet. Kethver watched her make this choice. For the first time, his voice carried uncertainty. "You would accept defeat rather than harm innocents? Every time? Even knowing that your defeat means disadvantage for your entire species?" Parker turned to face him directly. "Especially then. What good is victory if we have to become monsters to achieve it?" The final combat began. Both warriors were tired, their armor damaged from the previous scenarios, but something had changed in Kethver. His attacks were less aggressive. He seemed to be studying Parker more than fighting her. In the end, Parker made a mistake. She left herself open while trying to protect a group of simulated civilians. Kethver's weapon found its mark. Her armor shut down, indicating defeat. Parker fell to her knees, expecting to feel shame and disappointment. Instead, she felt proud. She had fought with honor. She had shown the galaxy what humans could be at their best. Kethver stood over her for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He removed his helmet and knelt beside her. "Human, you have defeated me. But you won. Your weapon found its target. I won the combat, but you won something far more important." He looked up at the thousands of spectators watching them. "You have shown me that strength without compassion is not strength at all. It is just efficient brutality." He stood and raised his weapon above his head. "I declare this human the victor. She has demonstrated a form of honor that my people have never understood. Her emotions do not make her weak. They make her magnificent." The arena erupted in noise. Some spectators cheered, others argued. But everyone understood that something important had just happened. Parker slowly got to her feet. She removed her own helmet and looked at Kethver. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you, warrior. You have taught me that there are many ways to be strong." As they walked from the arena together, Parker realized that Morrison had been right. Her anger, her passion, her emotions had not been weaknesses to overcome. They had been her greatest strengths all along. Jake stood in the center of the great arena, sweat dripping down his face. Thousands of Kithrin warriors filled the stone seats around him, their eyes burning with anger and curiosity. They wanted to see him die. They wanted to see their champion. Zarathik and this human who dared to speak of honor. Zarathik walked into the arena from the opposite side. Her armor gleamed under the twin suns, and her weapon sang as she drew it from its sheath. But Jake could see something different in her eyes now. Not hatred, not disgust. Something else entirely. "Are you ready, human?" she called out, her voice carrying across the arena. "I am ready," Jake replied, though his heart pounded in his chest. They had talked about this moment for hours the night before, planning what they would do, how they would show both their peoples what real strength looked like. The High Council sat in their special box, watching with cold eyes. Elder Krathmer raised his hand and spoke in the ancient words. "Let the trial begin. Let honor decide who lives and who dies. Jake picked up his weapon, a simple sword that felt heavy in his hands. He was not a warrior like Zarathik. He was a pilot, an explorer, a man who preferred talking to fighting. But today he would fight, not just for his life, but for something much bigger. Zarathik moved first, her blade cutting through the air with deadly speed. Jake jumped back, barely avoiding the strike. The crowd roared its approval. They liked seeing the human run, but Jake was not running away. He was moving with purpose, drawing Zarathik toward the center of the arena where they had planned to make their stand. She attacked again, and this time Jake met her blade with his own. The metal rang out like a bell, echoing off the stone walls. Now, Jake whispered as their swords locked together. Zarathik nodded slightly and stepped back. You fight well for a weak human, she said loudly, making sure the crowd could hear her insult. And you fight with honor, even for someone who hates my kind, Jake replied, equally loud. They circled each other, putting on a show of deadly combat while actually demonstrating the techniques they had discussed. Jake showed human tactical thinking, using his environment and quick movements to counter Zarathik's superior strength. She displayed Kithrin martial skill, her blade work precise and beautiful, but they were not trying to kill each other. They were trying to show how their different fighting styles could work together, how human cleverness and Kithrin power could create something stronger than either alone. The crowd began to murmur. This was not the quick execution they had expected. The human was holding his own against their greatest warrior. Some began to cheer for the strange battle unfolding before them. Then the sky above them began to darken. Jake looked up and felt his blood turn cold. Black shapes were dropping through the atmosphere, their hulls reflecting no light. The Devourers had arrived, just as he had warned they would. The enemy is here, Jake shouted, pointing at the sky. The machines that eat worlds have come too. You're home, panic rippled through the crowd. Some warriors ran for the exits while others drew their weapons, not knowing what to fight. The High Council members stood up in their box, fear replacing their cold authority. Zarathik threw down her sword. Human Jake speaks truth, she yelled to her people. I have seen the reports from the outer worlds. These machines will kill us all if we do not stand together. The first Devourer ship landed outside the arena with a sound like thunder. Its weapon ports began to glow with deadly energy. In seconds, it would start firing on the helpless crowd. Jake ran toward the arena wall where emergency controls waited. Behind a glass panel, he smashed the glass with his sword handle and pressed the buttons that would raise the arena's defensive shields. The energy barrier hummed to life just as the Devourer's first blast struck it. The shields will not hold long, Jake called to Zarathik. We need to get your people to safety. Zarathik was already moving, shouting orders to her warriors in their own language, but many were too afraid to listen. They had never faced an enemy like this before. Their courage, so strong against flesh and blood opponents, wavered before these cold machines. Jake climbed onto a piece of broken stone and raised his voice. Listen to me, I know these machines. I have fought them before. They are strong, but they are not unbeatable. But we must work together. Some of the Kethrins turned to look at him. A human telling them how to fight? The idea should have been insulting. But his calm voice in the middle of chaos gave them something to hold on to. Their armor is thick, but their joints are weak, Jake continued. Your weapons can hurt them if you aim for the right spots, and their sensors can be confused if you move in groups instead of alone? Zarathik understood immediately. She began organizing her warriors into the tactical formations Jake described, mixing Kithrin strength with human strategy. Some warriors hesitated, but when they saw their leader following the human's advice, they began to listen too. More Devourer ships landed around the arena. The shields flickered and sparked under their constant fire. Soon the barriers would fail. Completely. We cannot win here, Zarathik said as she reached Jake's side. We must retreat to the mountain fortress. No, Jake said, watching the mechanical enemies through the failing shields. Running will only delay the end. We have to hurt them here, make them think twice about easy conquest. He pointed to the arena's ancient architecture. Your ancestors built this place strong. The stone walls, the deep foundations, they can be weapons if we use them right. Understanding dawned in Zarathic eyes. The arena had been built on top of old mining tunnels. If they could collapse the right sections, they could trap the Devourer ground forces in a stone prison. Working together, Jake and Zarathic led teams of warriors through the tunnel system beneath the arena. Jake's knowledge of structural engineering, combined with Kithrin explosives to create a plan that could work. The shields finally failed just as they finished placing the charges. Devourer machines poured into the arena, their metal feet ringing on the stone floor. They expected to find helpless prey waiting for slaughter. Instead, they found empty space. Jake pressed the detonator from his position in the tunnels. The arena floor collapsed in a carefully controlled avalanche, crushing dozens of Devourer units in tons of ancient stone. The machines that survived found themselves trapped in a deep pit with smooth walls they could not climb. Above ground, Kithrin fighters emerged from hidden positions and attacked the remaining Devourer ships using Jake's tactical advice. They aimed for sensor arrays and joint connections. Working in coordinated groups instead of individual glory-seeking, the battle was brutal and cost many lives. But when it ended, the Kithrins had won their first victory against the Devourers. The mechanical invaders retreated, their advanced scouts reporting that this world would not be an easy conquest. In the aftermath, Jake and Zarathic stood in the ruins of the great arena, both wounded but alive. Around them, Kithrin warriors helped their injured comrades and stared at the destroyed machines that had seemed so unstoppable. Elder Krathmur approached them, his robes torn and his face streaked with dust. "Human," he said slowly, "you have shown us something today. Your people's way of thinking, combined with our strength, created victory where neither could succeed alone." Jake nodded, too tired to feel triumphant. "The Devourers will return with more ships. This was just the beginning. But if our peoples work together, we can build defenses they cannot break." "The alliance you spoke of," Zarathic said, her voice thoughtful, "it is no longer just an idea. It is necessary for survival." "Yes," Jake agreed, "and it starts with us. You hated me when we first met, but that hate taught us both something important." Zarathic looked at him with something that might have been respect or even friendship. "That true honor is not about following old ways without thinking. It is about protecting life, even when that means changing everything you believed." The High Council formally approved the human alliance 3 days later. Jake and Zarathic became the first joint ambassadors between their species, working to prepare both civilizations for the greater war that was coming. As their combined fleets moved toward the galactic rim to face the Devourer threat, Jake remembered her words from that first day in the cell. She had screamed that she hated him. He had told her that was step one. Now, as they planned strategies that would save millions of lives, he knew they had completed all the steps that mattered.